All right, we are on the borrowers, and we're on chapter 6, and they've just gone over with Arietti different borrowers that had lived in different places around the house, and now they're ready to tell her about Egeltina. Chapter 6. Your mother and I got you up, said Pod, to tell you about upstairs. Arietti, holding the great cup in her hands, looked at him over the edge. Pod coughed. You said a while back that the sky was dark brown with cracks in it. Well, it isn't. He looked at her almost accusingly. It's blue. I know, said Arietti. You know, exclaimed Pod. Of course I know. I've got the grating. You can see the sky through the grating? Go on, interrupted Homley. Tell her about the gates. Well, said Pod ponderously, if you go outside this room, what do you see? A dark passage, said Arietti. What else? Other rooms. And if you go further, more passages. And if you go walking on in all the passages under the floor, however they twist and turn, what do you find? Gates, said Arietti. Strong gates, said Pod. Gates you can't open. And what are they for? Against the mice, said Arietti. Yes, agreed Pod, uncertainly, as though he gave her half a mark. But mice never hurt no one. What else? Rats, suggested Arietti. We don't have rats, said Pod. What about cats? Cats? Echoed Arietti, surprised. Or to keep you in? Suggested Pod. To keep me in? Repeated Arietti, dismayed. Upstairs is a dangerous place, said Pod, and you, Arietti, are all we've got. It isn't like Hendreary. He had 2 of his own and 2 of hers. Once, said Pod. Hendreary had 3 of his own. Your father's thinking of Egeltina, said Homley. Yes, said Pod, Egeltina. They never told her about upstairs. They didn't got no grating. They told her the sky was nailed up like with cracks in it. A foolish way to bring up a child, muttered Homley. She sniffed slightly and touched Arietti's hair. But Egeltina was no fool, said Pod. She didn't believe them. So one day, he went on, she went upstairs to see for herself. How did she get out? Asked Arietti, interested. We didn't have so many gates then. Just one under the clock. Hendreary must have left it unlocked or something. Anyway, Egeltina went out. In a blue dress, said Homley, and a pair of button-down boots that your father had made her. Yellow kid with jet beads for buttons. Lovely they were. Well, said Pod, any other time she might have been all right. She'd have gone out, had a look around, had a bit of a fright maybe, and come back, none the worse and no one the wiser. But things have been happening, said Homley. Yes, said Pod, and she didn't know, as they never told her, but her father had been seen, and that upstairs they'd got in the cat, and... They waited a week, said Homley. They waited a month, and they hoped for a year, but no one ever saw Egeltina no more. And that, said Pod, after a pause, eyeing Arietti, is what happened to Egeltina. There was a silence except for Pod's breathing and the faint bubble in the soup. It just broke your Uncle Hendreary, said Homley at last. He never went upstairs again. And Casey said he found the button boots. Their only future was to emigrate. Arietti was silent for a moment. Then she raised her head. Why'd you tell me? She asked. Now, tonight. Homley got up. She moved restlessly toward the stove. We don't never talk of it, she said. At least not much, but tonight we felt. She turned suddenly. Well, we'll just say it straight out. Your father's been seen, Arietti. Oh, said Arietti. Who by? Well, by something you've never heard of. But that's not the point. The point is... You think they'll get a cat? They may, said Homley. Arietti set down the soup for a moment. She stared into the cup as it stood beside her, almost knee-high on the floor. There was a dreamy, secret something in her lowered face. Couldn't we emigrate? She ventured at last, very softly. Homily gasped and clasped her hands and swung away toward the wall. You don't know what you're talking about, she cried, addressing a frying pan which hung against the wall. Worms and weasels and cold and damp and... But supposing, said Arrietty, that I went out and like Egeltina did and the cat ate me, then you and Papa would emigrate, wouldn't you? She asked, her voice faltered. Wouldn't you? Homily swung round at this time toward Arrietty. Her face looked very angry. I shall smack you, Arrietty Clock, if you don't behave yourself this minute. Arrietty's eyes filled with tears. I was only thinking, she said, that I'd like to be there, to emigrate too. Uneaten, she added softly, and the tears fell. Now, said Pod, that's enough. You get off to bed, Arrietty, uneaten and unbeaten both, and we'll talk about this in the morning. It's not that I'm afraid, said Arrietty angrily. I like cats. I bet the cat didn't eat Egeltina. I bet she just ran away because she hated being cooped up day after day, week after week, year after year, just like I do, she added on a sob. Cooped up, repeated Homily, astounded. Arrietty put her face into her hands. Gates, she gasped. Gates, 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 gates. Pod and Homily stared at each other across Arrietty's bowed shoulders. You didn't ought to have brought it up, he said unhappily. So late at night. Arrietty raised her tear-stained face. Late or early, what's the difference? She cried. Oh, I know Papa is a wonderful borrower. I know we managed to stay when all the others have gone. But what has it done for us in the end? I don't think it's clever to live on alone forever and ever in a great big empty house under the floor with no one to talk to and no one to play with and nothing to see but dust and passages, no light but candlelight and firelight and what comes through the cracks. Egeltina had brothers and Egeltina had half-brothers. Egeltina had a tame mouse. Egeltina had yellow boots with jet buttons. And Egeltina did get out. Just once. Shush, said Pod gently. Not so loud. Above their heads the floor creaked and heavy footfalls heaved deliberately to and fro. They heard Mrs. Driver's grumbling voice and the falter of fire irons. Drat this stove, they heard her say. Wind's in the east again. Then they heard her raise her voice and call, Cramp Furl. Pod sat staring glumly at the floor. Arrietty shivered a little and hugged herself more tightly into a knitted quilt, and Homily drew a long, slow breath. Suddenly she raised her head. The child is right, she announced firmly. Arrietty's eyes grew big. Oh, no, she began. It shocked her to be right. Parents were right, not children. Children could say anything Arrietty knew and enjoy saying it, knowing they were safe and wrong. You see, Pod, went on Homily, it was different for you and me. There were other families, other children, the sinks in the scullery, you remember? And those people who lived behind the knife machine, I forgot their names now, and the broom-covered boys, and there were the underground passage from the stables, you know, and the rain pipes used, and we had more, you could say, freedom. Ah, yes, said Pod, in a way, but where does freedom take you? He looked up uncertainly. Where are they all now? Some of them have bettered themselves, I shouldn't wonder, said Homily sharply. Times have changed in the whole house. Pickings aren't what they were. There were those that went, you remember, when they dug a trench for the gas pipe, over the fields and through the wood, a kind of tunnel it gave them all the way to Leighton Buzzard. And what did they find there? Said Pod unkindly. A mountain of coke. Homily turned away. Arrietty, she said in the same firm voice, supposing one day we'd pick a special day when there was no one about, providing they don't get a cat, which I have my reason for thinking they won't, supposing one day your father took you out borrowing, you'd be a good girl, wouldn't you? You'd do just what he said, and quickly and quietly, and no arguing. Arrietty turned quite pink. She clasped her hands together. "Oh," she began in an ecstatic voice, but Pod cut it quickly. "Now, Homily, we've got to think. Can't just say things like that without thinking it out proper. I been seen, remember. This is no kind of time for taking a child upstairs." "There won't be no cat," said Homily, "and there wasn't no screeching. It wasn't like the time with Rosa Pickhatchet." "All the same," said Pod uncertainly, "there's risk there. I never heard of no girl going borrowing before." "The way I look at it," said Homily, "it's only now it's come to me. If you had a son, you'd take him borrowing now, wouldn't you? But you haven't got a son. Only Arietti. Suppose a thing happened to you or me, where would Arietti be if she hasn't learned to borrow?" Pod stared down at his knees. "Yes," he said after a moment, "I see what you mean." "And it'll give her a bit of interest like, and stop her from hankering." "Hankering for what?" "For blue sky and grass and such like." Arietti caught her breath, and Homily turned to her swiftly. "It's no good, Arietti. I'm not going to emigrate, not for you nor anyone else." "Ah," said Pod, beginning to laugh. "So that's it." "Shush," said Homily, annoyed, glancing quickly at the ceiling. "Not so loud. Now kiss your father, Arietti," she went on briskly, "and pop off back to bed." As Arietti snuggled down under the bedclothes, she felt creeping up from her toes a glow of happiness, like a glow of warmth. She heard their voices rising and falling in the next room. Homily went on and on, measured in confidence. There was, Arietti felt, a kind of conviction behind it. It was the winning voice. Once she heard Pod get up and scrape the chair. "I don't like it," she heard him say. And she heard Homily whisper, "Hush." And then there were tremendous footfalls on the floor above and the sudden clash of pans. Arietti, half dozing, gazed up at her painted ceiling. "Flor de Havana," proclaimed the banner proudly. "Garantes dos superiores non plus ultra exquisitos." And the lovely gauzy ladies blew their trumpets silently, triumphantly, on the soundless notes of glee. Also, I very much apologize for my pronunciation of the words that were on the box, but you can see it in this picture right here. And then if you know Spanish, you can tell me how to really pronounce it the next time you see me. So there she is. There's her cigar box lid, and then there she is in her little bed. And that was chapter number 6. Look at how far we already are. Okay, I'll see you back here for chapter 7. Love you.